like the chorus.
As you can see, we take this all very, very seriously. We're going to be ready to start here in about a minute.
Oh, Chris Lloyd will like that. Your fellow zombie aficionado is watching.
Oh, there's two zombie aficionados in Rim Country?
Yeah,
wow.
I think Chris and Andy, they kind of have there's a relationship there that they're not even aware of.
No, we are.
Oh, you are.
Someone called National
Get a
Enquirer.
room.
Yeah.
Get a room.
Get a zombie room.
Get a zombie room.
All right.
All right. Hurry up.
Here you go. One more 30-second commercial, and we are ready to rock and roll.
Now, I have to mention Anderson's getting 4 Oscar nominations, but did it get any Oscars?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay, here we go. 20 seconds.
Now's the time to take advantage of the cash.
Cut the audio here.
They have awfully good coffee here at this radio
I
station.
have no idea how we do this without coffee.
So, yeah.
Here we go.
Hello? Hello?
And good Friday morning, and welcome to KRIM's
Hello?
Community
Hello?
Spotlight. And yes, Andy McKinney is with us again,
Hello?
as is Tina. And sadly, Craig can't be with us this morning. Tina's getting her Zen on right now. And the only syllable I've learned so far. But at any rate, Craig's a little under the weather. He can't be with us today, so we're hoping that he's watching along on Facebook Live, as other people are. And thank you if you are joining us. Those brave people out there that are willing to actually look at what we look like. We appreciate you joining along.
I have a face for radio.
Yes, I've been accused of that myself.
Yeah.
Hey, I was looking this morning on movie.
Hello out there in Radio Land.
Greetings, salutations, and
Sorry, Andy just woke up.
aloha nui kako to everybody, and that's like mega aloha.
Nui
Wow.
kako?
Yes, my mom used to say that.
It's like big aloha or
Like
something.
big aloha.
Well, I was looking at, because normally we talk about, the movies that are going to be playing at the Sawmill Theater this week and things like that, and obviously with this whole COVID thing, that still is not happening yet, and we don't have a projected opening date yet, from what I understand, but it's coming soon.
Lord Ducey.
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of interesting, in our KRIM news this morning, we had, yesterday, talked about how the local schools aren't going to be opening up here for in-person teaching until October 12th, but yesterday Ducey's kind of singing the praises of the school systems down in the Phoenix area that decided to go ahead and open up anyway.
I'll tell you, I'm sorry, but if brains were dynamite, he wouldn't have enough to blow his nose.
Hey, don't
And
candy
that's
coat
my
it for,
opinion. Well,
don't
no,
candy
I
coat
mean,
it
he
for us.
could have done what South Dakota did.
They do.
And they've never shut down.
Oh, there you go.
They never shut down businesses.
Well, there's only about 4 people there, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
no, but I mean, they've got a very low caseload,
Right.
and they are doing fabulously. She is a wonderful governor.
Interesting. Well, one of the things that I was looking at today is what movies are being released today.
Mhm.
And wow, talk about some big blockbusters. Tell me if you've ever heard of any of these.
Okay.
Music Camp opens up today. The Silencing, Cut and Chop, Project Power, Endless, Sputnik, Represent, Spree. Go ahead and chime in if you've heard any of it.
I certainly will.
Boys State,
Yeah.
Sound of Metal, and that may be the only time you ever hear of any of those movies, but those are all being released today. We have more coming out later this month, but again, they're all similar in that something you may never have heard of before.
Yeah, I had a nice talk with Craig about the opening of the theater, and he has some hope that maybe next Friday, and a much bigger hope that the following Friday.
Well, that's good
You
news.
mean Lord Ducey is going to permit
Well,
this?
one of the problems is that there's a process you have to go through to petition to open, and I don't know if there's anybody working at the state level at the petition office, because apparently it takes they allow themselves up to 10 days to examine your petition, and
Yeah, well, what the heck, they get paid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
well,
small
well-
businesses they put out of business don't get paid, but they get paid.
Well,
I want to tear this one, sorry.
I got that impression.
well, we ought to open up the theater, that's what I.
Yes,
Well,
we
I agree.
should.
You know, and I
Yes.
know of at least one bar/eating establishment that got involved in a class action lawsuit against the state, and suddenly it's okay for them to be open.
Uh-huh.
So that says something. You can figure out what that says on your own. But at any rate, this
Yeah, you know,
morning,
somebody told me that bars are not in Payson, unfortunately, but different parts of Arizona are in cahoots with food trucks. And they're putting a food truck in the bar parking lot,
Yep.
and that way immediately transforming the bar into a restaurant,
Right.
which restaurants are allowed to be open.
Right.
So I'm not quite.
Restaurants that serve liquor, but there you are.
and it has to be a certain percentage of the revenue that is
Yeah.
derived from,
And
you know.
Yeah.
Who's going to enforce this?
Yeah.
Do they have all these enforcement?
It must be a
Trolls?
huge auditing.
Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Anyway, so the bottom line is, I mean, that sounds great. In the next week or two, it sounds like the Sawmill theaters will once again reopen, and boy, it's been a long time, and
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be open under very diminished circumstances.
right,
Craig's going to mark off 2/3 of the seats so that there will be plenty of elbow room in there. Nobody will be breathing somebody else's breath.
Unless they sit next to me.
unless they want to breathe someone else's breath.
That's right.
Well, you know, that's
I'll be happy to share.
middle school kids generally go on Friday night and sit in the back row and don't pay attention to the movie. So
Right.
Hey, you know, looking online, you know, we're also coming to you live on Facebook Live. Chris on Facebook says, "Gotta love loopholes."
yeah, absolutely.
Kelly saying,
Yeah,
"Good
really.
day, everyone," and Chris saying, "Good morning." Jeannie giving a little heart logo or emoji there. That's cool.
Oh, isn't that nice?
I
Yeah.
love you.
And Daniel saying good morning, and so good morning to everyone. Thanks for
Hey.
joining us on Facebook Live with your hometown movie guys, -1 this morning. Again, Tina and Andy with us in the studio. We hope Craig gets back to feeling better. He's a little under the weather.
Yep, and we're working on our T-shirts, and we should have
Yes.
our T-shirts soon.
We have the coolest logo.
I tell you what,
We look way better in our logo than in
Yeah,
person.
well, that's
It's
true.
So cute.
Chris Higgins
Yeah.
and K-Rim Radio arranged to have an amazing caricature done of your three hometown movie guys. And I have to say, you know, when I first heard about it, I was like, well, that could be interesting. You know, I'm anxious to
Yeah.
see that. And once I saw it, it's like, whoever he had do this, I mean, man, they are the people to go to. Because
So we're gonna
I think they
really
really captured your essence.
Our essence, yes.
And the rest of you, too.
I know. I'm thinking of Dr. Strangelove, our precious bodily fluids.
Don't think
Ooh.
about
Don't think about
that.
that. Yeah, I know, but the essence.
People could be eating
but-
breakfast
yeah.
still.
But when the T-shirts are available, we encourage all of our fans and even people who don't like us to wear our likenesses on your chest.
So many one-liners, so little time. You know, one of the bottom line is, as I've said repeatedly for the past few weeks, the Sawmill Theaters have done so many great things for folks here in Rim Country. They've done blood drives, various fundraisers for great causes, and I mean, they've been a real, you know, central hub of the community in a lot of different ways. And so it's got to be really tough for a lot of those employees who had to go on unemployment. Then it looked like the theater was going to open up, so they went off unemployment, went back to work, and then had to get closed down again. So they had to wait, you know, go on unemployment, wait for that paycheck to come in. It's got to be really tough for them, but we all need to get out and support the Sawmill Theaters when they do get a chance to reopen here in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And just go watch a movie. To me, going to the theater and just sitting down and watching a movie would be a nice little step back to whatever normalcy is supposed to be. I still don't really know what normal is.
Yeah, my name is Abby Normal.
Yes, I've heard that about you. Yes. Well, now, one of the things
And
that,
I've been watching movies.
is that right?
Yes.
As have I.
So you've been checking it out online and,
Oh,
and,
yeah, yeah.
Netflix, things like that, or what?
I saw Inception the other night.
Really?
Oh, no, that's a confusing
Gosh.
movie.
Oh my gosh, but it's made by the same guy who made Memento, and
Yep.
I love Memento. So, yeah, I mean, it's very confusing. Christopher Nolan, long movie.
Yeah.
But Leonardo DiCaprio, Marion Cotillard.
Easy for you to say.
Ooh, good one.
My tongue doesn't move in those directions.
But it's a very, you have to pay attention.
Really?
You can't do anything else other than watch the movie. So, like if it were in the theater and it were darkened and you had the only focus up on the screen, it's kind of like that. You have to really, really focus.
Now you're venturing into
A dream within a dream
Yes,
within
within
a
a
dream.
dream.
No. This is more like a nightmare. You're venturing into a pet peeve of mine.
Oh.
I cannot stand watching a movie with someone who will stop paying attention and then right in the middle of a scene wants you to give them an update on why they're doing that right now.
Why is he doing
I
that?
mean,
Well,
just go away. Go watch a football
there
game.
are reasons for killing people, and that might be, I mean, just or gagging them. Well, they're wearing a mask. They're already gagged.
There you go.
There you go. Right?
And we don't, we don't think you necessarily should resort to violence. However, I know darn
You
good
can
well
think-
that
you can think about
I
it.
have had some violent thoughts. So pay attention when you're watching.
Pay attention.
Even if you're just watching TV.
Yeah.
So what other movies have you all been catching?
Ooh.
I got to see Snatch this week.
Oh, what a wonderful
Now,
movie. Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie.
Yes, and in which Brad Pitt has such a wonderful accent that nobody can understand a word he says except one word.
Kind of sounds like Ozzy Osbourne.
Me mum.
Me mum.
Me mum.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wonderful. It's just outrageous. It's funny. It's violent.
Right.
It's
Way
all the things
over
we
the top.
love.
And
Over the top.
Yeah, and really imaginative.
Oh,
And just
hysterical.
Yeah, just crazy imaginative.
Yeah.
You know, and I heard, speaking of Ozzy Osbourne, I heard he got a new job.
No.
Yeah, he's going to be acting as interpreter for Biden when he goes out on his speaking gigs. Yeah, it's kind of like,
Well,
that sign language thing, only with just, guttural explosions and stuff. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
I saw Ozzy on TV the other night, and he didn't make any sense to me.
Well,
there you are.
take a number and stand in line.
But those of you who are not yet Guy Ritchie fans, I think we
Wonderful.
can endorse Snatch as perhaps his greatest achievement.
Yeah, and you have to pay attention.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it
if
moves.
it's a
It
good,
moves
if it's a
so
good
fast.
movie, this is my big thing right now, is focus. Don't have multitasking, because I have proven to my students at the local community college that one cannot multitask. One flickers back and forth,
Right.
but you cannot do two things at once.
To me, if you're watching a movie, I mean, I like to just get completely enthralled in it. And if
Yeah.
you're going to interrupt me, it better be with food or a drink. Otherwise, it's just going to get ugly.
Yeah.
That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure at one point in your life there were other alternatives, but not anymore.
Oh, let me tell you, we don't have enough time for the rest of that story. Anyway, we've got all kinds of good things to talk about this morning. And one of the things, Tina, that you told me prior to going on the air this morning is we're going to talk today a little bit about Orson Welles.
Yes.
Now, if you are under,
Yes.
what, 30 years of age, that
Well,
name probably doesn't mean much to you unless you're a real movie buff.
a filmy.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that goes back a ways. I mean,
Yeah.
Orson Welles passed away.
83, I think.
83.
85. 85.
Yeah, okay. So a while back.
Yeah.
But boy, was a king in movies on so many different levels, both in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah, and a major radio guy. I mean,
Really?
again, oh yeah,
We won't hold that against
the
him.
Mercury Theater. He was very active. The show The Shadow, if you remember that,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
The Shadow.
big time on The Shadow.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And of course, wasn't it War of the Worlds?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
now for people. If you're one of these that's under like 30 or 40 years of age, none of this probably makes sense. But there was a radio show back in the day.
It was what, 1931?
Yeah, I mean, it was before my
Yeah.
time. But Andy, you probably
Yeah,
remember this,
it was
right?
big time. It was when Randy. It was when radio had all these dramas that were put on. It wasn't just music.
We're
but
going back to the days of
people-
Fibber McGee and Molly and all of that
People
kind
would
of stuff.
listen to the radio to listen to radio dramas.
And the thing that's really cool about radio dramas is it's the theater of the mind.
Yes.
And sometimes I think when you're listening to a drama like that, your mind can conjure up far better imagery than any Hollywood producer ever dreamt of.
Well, and that's what listeners did
Yeah.
when Orson Welles put on War of the Worlds, because he put it on as a newscast, which was a drama,
Yeah.
but people didn't know it wasn't a newscast, and there was a national panic.
People were committing suicide.
Yes.
And it was so, I mean, we learned a lot about, well, probably shouldn't do it that way, but it came on as a show where it sounded like a news broadcast that aliens were
Right.
invading the world.
Right.
And you know, everything was hitting the fan, basically.
And it was, it's an H.G. Wells story,
Mhm.
that Orson Welles, and he was a big admirer of H.G. Wells, and apparently, I did a lot of looking up Orson Welles last night. H.G. Wells and Orson Welles actually met one
Really?
time. Yes. H.G.
Well,
Wells was,
wasn't Orson H.G.'s son?
no.
Are you sure?
Different spelling. Wells, H.G. had no E at the end, and Orson had an E, but H.G. was kind of wandering around somewhere, and he was lost, and he stopped to ask for directions, and guess who gave him directions? Seriously.
Orson.
Yes,
Wow.
and then they spent the rest of the day together. It's a
Nice.
really cool thing, yeah.
Hey, and by the way, Chris, watching on Facebook Live said, I guess they made it seem like an actual radio broadcast to hype it up to seem real, and that's exactly what they did. But I mean, what was
Yeah.
really alarming was they did such a believable job that some people were freaking out, and there was actually some suicides.
Yes,
Because people thought this
and
is
you
the
can
end.
you can find this on YouTube. I mean, they may show visuals, but you could find the whole broadcast to listen to. If you want to close your eyes and go back into the day as if you were listening to the radio, and all of a sudden, this newscast of these aliens is being, coming on, and then they had music. They were playing music, and then we interrupt this broadcast. It was really amazing.
Well, definitely, and so many things that these folks were involved with were kind of ahead of their time, because nobody had ever thought about doing anything like that.
Right.
And of course, some aspects of this, like making it sound like a live radio broadcast, no one's wanted to do it since. But I mean, it was revolutionary, and
Right.
that was way back again, just in radio days before the talkies.
Yeah.
And
But those radio dramas were so great.
Mhm.
I mean, you have The Shadow, you have The Lone Ranger. What were some of the other ones? I think. I mean, these were in America.
Yeah,
Right.
when I was a wee tad, I lived as you did this, and wee tadette.
Yes, I was a Tadette, a Tadina.
I lived on a remote island in the South Pacific,
Aha.
and although TV was available in the big world, it wasn't available where we were.
Right.
And I can still remember Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal,
Oh, yes.
Oh,
dealing with the spoilers and
Yeah.
the killers
yeah.
with a badge and the smell of
Festus.
gun smoke.
Gunsmoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in Singapore during the 50s, and there was
Another
no
island in the
another island,
South
and
Seas.
in a tropical island, and there was no TV in Singapore. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't have it. It's like it wasn't there.
Mhm.
So I would listen to all the radio dramas. I heard the Orson Welles radio drama. This was in the 50s.
Right.
But the Goon Show, I just always want to put in a plug for the Goon Show. Go on YouTube,
The
look up.
Goon Show.
It's Peter Sellers. It's how he got
The
his
Pink
start.
Panther guy.
Oh my word! These guys were insane.
Huh.
And they created the kind of visual fantasy radio drama that Andy and I have a certain fondness for those guys, because you'd just be listening. There was no visuals, but man, your visuals that you created were really active.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I got a lot
And
of-
what they call it, Mercury
The
Theater.
Mercury Theater was Orson Welles, and
And he did that for a long time.
yes, he did. And Agnes Moorehead was a part of that.
Mhm.
And I think Joseph Cotton, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't be
Joseph-
surprised, because Joseph Cotton
He was
ended
in a
up
lot
in a
of-
lot of
yeah.
lot of the movies.
Right.
Interesting. Joseph Cotton. You're
Yes.
getting into a bunch of names I've never even heard
Well,
of.
he
What?
was what?
I'm just a young one.
Well, he was in Citizen Kane, of course.
Right.
Citizen Kane. I mean, eventually one has to really take a look at that. It is by many, including me, considered to be either, if not the best movie of all time, one of the best movies.
I
of all
remember
time.
having to watch that in high school as part of an English class.
He won an Oscar for that. He was 26 years old, and for decades he was the youngest director to win an Oscar. And I believe he won. I don't know if he won for Best Actor, But he was a child prodigy. I mean, he often said, I started high and then went down from there, right?
But enough about the 70s.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Citizen Kane, though. There were some political aspects to it that William Randolph Hearst, who was the mogul, the newspaper mogul of the time, fabulously wealthy, I think maybe the wealthiest man in the country, and a real, excuse the expression, SOB. And he had wielded enormous power. And he went after Orson Welles because Orson Welles concocted this story about Charles Foster Kane, in which it really was transparently a portrayal of William Randolph Hearst and not a flattering portrayal. And Hearst threatened him. There were all kinds of Hearst
was a pretty powerful guy back in that day.
Hearst tried to get it banned. He went after RKO, which was the studio. He went after Orson Welles. There's even a story where somebody warned Orson Welles, don't go back to your hotel tonight because they've got a 14-year-old girl in the closet and they've got photographers waiting.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Hearst was rabid. He hated this movie. It's a great movie. Everybody's got to see it. Everybody.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes it great technically is that the opening scene goes on for, I don't know, 15 minutes or something, and it's all a single cut.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Yes.
And nobody had ever done anything even remotely like that
Right.
before.
And Orson Welles worked with, I think the cinematographer was Greg Toland, and he worked with him on what's called deep focus. So deep focus is where you have to construct the lighting and the camera angles so that you can see something way far away and way close up,
So depth of
all
field.
in
At the
focus,
same
depth
time.
of field. Yeah,
Yep.
way. Oh, it's just, I mean, and it's black and white, and that, it.
And back in those days,
Oh.
because I mean, I started doing photography, in a dark room,
Sure.
with black and white film, and then eventually did Cibachrome color prints and stuff. But
Yeah.
back
Before they
then,
invented electrons.
that's
Yeah,
right. But I
really.
mean, back then, I mean, there was to shoot good photographs. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a lot that went into it. Unlike with the digital stuff nowadays that does so much of the thinking for you. Plus,
Right.
you
I
can
like that.
you can shoot a gazillion pictures and only print out 2 of them. You don't have to print out
Right.
or develop
Right.
everything.
9 Oscar nominations
Yes.
for Citizen Kane. And how old was he?
26.
26.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
And the only win was for the script.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was for the script, but what about the he didn't win
Nope.
for directing?
Nope,
No,
it was,
okay. Or acting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
But he was
Does-
what they called the enfant terrible, which was the terrible.
I
infant.
was
Right?
hoping that you would get to that and pronounce it correctly for me. But then he came right back
Yes.
with Magnificent
Vincent
Andersons.
Oh, another one.
Four Oscar noms for that one.
Yeah.
And what year about were we talking about?
We're 1941 and then Magnificent Andersons 1942.
Right, so he was like right on it. But
Yeah.
Agnes Moorehead was in that.
Oh, the mother from Bewitched.
That's right.
Yes. Good heavens.
That goes back a ways.
Man, you are a fountain of trivia.
Yeah,
Yeah, the-
useless trivia, I might add.
Magnificent Andersons is based on a 1918 novel by Booth Tarkington.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. The author of 17, which probably you
Yep.
had to read in middle school.
I read it in high school.
I don't think I ever read it.
Oh, well. You mean books and movies.
Yeah.
Oh, me, oh, my.
I
Uh-oh.
think I skipped class that day, or hanging out in the alley.
Yeah.
Anyway, tremendously famous American author, very prolific American author.
Yes.
And
Didn't he write Our Town as well, I think?
maybe.
I don't know.
Niggity. So what are some of the other movies that Orson Welles was involved with that people may or may not know about?
The Stranger.
The Stranger.
Stranger. Didn't
That-
Billy Joel write a song about that?
Yeah.
Different.
Different
Yeah,
Stranger. Okay.
yeah, but that is such a sinister movie.
Yeah,
Where he plays, it's a Nazi.
yeah. It's
Who's-
after the movie's after the war,
Right.
and they're tracking down a Nazi war criminal,
Right.
and very
that is, of course,
very icky and atmospheric.
yes.
Atmospheric.
It's a film noir. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
and it's very dark.
It's very dark, and noir is French for black, so
Okay.
it's a film noir. Yeah, and that's a really creepy, super creepy movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And then another one in black
But
and white.
wait, there's more.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
One of
there's
my
lots more.
One of my favorites is Touch of Evil.
Ooh.
He had become, Orson, you know, in Citizen Kane, he was still young and attractive, even though he made himself up at the end of the movie.
So you're saying he got ugly when he got older?
Well, he got fat,
Oh.
and but he used this to his advantage in Touch of Evil. He plays a very corrupt sheriff, and what's interesting about it is that Charlton Heston played a Mexican.
Wow.
So Charlton Heston is in it, and then the absolutely, you know, show-stopping Marlene Dietrich.
Mm.
And it is, again, it's a very dark, very...
That seems to be a common theme with a lot of his work.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it
I think
does.
he had a dark, you know, sort of
Yeah,
persona.
I don't think he was a happy
He was,
camper.
oh, he was never a happy camper. He talked about that a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
About being an unhappy camper.
Yeah, yeah. I saw some of the quotes last night when I was researching this, and I feel for him. You know, he never fit in, and then he became enormously fat. He exiled himself to Europe
Really?
and lived in Europe, and but you know, he was married to.
Well, the
Rita
food's good there.
Oh, and he ate. He was a gourmand, which is different from a gourmet. A gourmet is a person who savors food. A gourmand is a glutton.
Ah,
Yeah, there is a big difference.
I'll add that to my resume. Going on. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, but he had oodles of wives, and a lot of them were.
Well, no wonder he wasn't happy. I mean,
Yeah.
But he was married to Rita Hayworth.
well, that make you happy for a
Yeah.
little while.
And Dolores Del Rio,
Yes.
Mhm.
and he kept. Oh, I can't.
Name meant nothing
It's
to me.
It's so sad to just see the blank look.
I need to get out more.
What's he doing interviewing us?
And he would put his wives in his movies too.
Yes.
So.
Oh, well,
And when he was so ticked off at Rita Hayworth, I forget which movie she was in, but he made her cut off her red hair.
Lady from Shanghai.
Oh, Lady from Shanghai, yes.
Yeah,
And
they
he made her.
they started the movie, and I think they got divorced
Yes.
in the process someplace.
Yes, and then, but they haven't finished the movie, but he made her go blonde. And if you'll remember, she was a famous redhead.
yeah.
And so he was a bit vindictive, was
I can
Orson.
imagine having to finish a movie under those kind of circumstances. That would be a little
Yeah.
tough.
Well, I think that was under where they had the contract
Oh,
system
yeah, that was
in
the studio
Hollywood.
contract system.
They were like
They're
slaves.
bound to the
Right.
studios, yeah. And you know, and then, now a movie that nobody but me has seen, I'm sure, is called Falstaff, The Chimes at Midnight, Falstaff. And
Chimes
Falstaff,
at midnight.
yes, Chimes at Midnight,
Okay.
and he played Falstaff.
The Shakespearean character.
And remember, Orson Welles was a major Shakespearean actor.
Huh.
He concocted this movie where he wrote the script, and he took all these bits and pieces from different Shakespearean plays, in which Falstaff is never the main character in any Shakespearean play, but he appears in different ones, and
Mhm.
so Orson wrote this compendium where Falstaff was the central character. And he was enormously fat at the time, and Falstaff is a fat, jolly, well,
Drank a lot of beer.
drank a lot of beer. And so somebody said about, you know, there was this whole thing about, you know, that inside somebody is a thin man, you know, trying to get out. You know, inside a fat person is a thin man. Somebody wrote, inside Falstaff is a fat man trying to get out of a fat man. He was big. And I saw this in film school. It was made in 1965. It's a beautiful movie, yeah.
Now, I tell you what, we've been talking with your hometown movie guys this morning. Tina and Andy with us. Craig hopefully will be back with us next week, a little under the weather today. We have to take a break here on KRIM, get you back to more of your favorite music. But hey, we're hoping that you'll stick along with us on Facebook Live, because we're going to continue the conversation about everything that Orson Welles was involved with, and a bunch of other frivolity along the way. So stick with us on Facebook Live. Just go to KRIM FM on Facebook, and you'll be able to see us right there. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, get you caught up here on KRIM with the latest weather, as well as getting you back into your favorite music with Boston.
I
the
like
Eagles.
weather.
And weather's good. It's hot. Anyway, we'll be back with more right after these words.
Weather, yeah. And we should talk about what we can view, you know, at home, some of the things that we can view.
We'll talk about.
Okay, we're back on.
Oh, we're back already?
No, yeah, KRIM is doing its thing right now, and we're getting ready to continue doing our thing.
Hi, y'all of y'all.
Yeah, he made movie of the trial,
Yes.
Franz Kafka
Oh,
short story.
oh,
The trial.
yeah. And that story is really,
You're unfamiliar with the trial?
you know,
Oh, filling in, please.
no. It's
I watch
a-
mostly cartoons.
Well, Kafka wrote this short story or short piece, but it's about a man who's on trial and no one will tell him what for. The charges, it's kind of like if you don't know, we can't tell you, and yet you're on trial. And it's kind of like people feel today sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're, you're guilty. Well, of what? Well, if you don't know, we can't tell you. But
And
it's
the-
a really creepy story.
In the Soviet Union,
Yes.
there
yes.
was and this was codified in law.
Mhm.
If you were accused of something,
Yes.
you were guilty because you were using up the resources of the state.
Right.
So it didn't matter if you were guilty or not guilty. By being accused, you were
You were already
what they
guilty
call them, a
because-
wrecker,
Yes.
or a saboteur.
Right.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
No,
Right.
there's
No,
no
no,
proving.
there was no proven
there
innocent.
was no
You were
proving.
automatically
just guilty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was that was in the statute. It was written that way.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, Kathy's watching along with us on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining us, Kathy. She says, "Who are your guests?" Well, so let me just update you.
I'm Andy. Hi.
Hi, I'm Tina. Hi.
These are 2 out of the 3 of your hometown movie guys. Craig can't be with us today, but we're having fun talking about movies and been talking about Orson Welles, which, I mean, as a kid growing up in the 60s, I mean, Orson Welles was a huge name. I mean, it was at the top.
I get it. I see what you did there.
There was a lot of girth to his
Yeah.
profession. But anyway, but he was a huge name back then, and I think a lot of the younger folks now might not even know of all the stuff he did.
And guess who played the victim in the trial?
Who?
Tony Perkins.
Tony Perkins.
Tony
Wow.
Perkins, yeah.
Yep.
And then, when we're done talking
Psycho.
about the
He was the guy in
yeah, he was
Psycho.
the guy in
Oh,
Psycho.
okay, okay.
Hitchcock's
Oh, for
Psycho.
heaven's sakes.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't get out much.
Oh.
Remember the shower scene?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my personal friendship with Tippi Hedren has kept me away from a lot of Alfred Hitchcock material.
Well, and he was not a nice guy, but remember, you've got these enormously talented people who are directors,
Mhm.
who are truly, probably psychopaths or sociopaths. I mean,
Right.
Roman Polanski,
There you go.
he made some of, one of my favorite towns, I'll haul it out again, Chinatown.
China, oh, that's right. You like
Right.
Chinatown,
I have
didn't
to
you?
always, Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway and John Huston. Oh my gosh.
Right.
And who slit
Yes.
his nose?
Yeah, it was Roman Polanski.
There we go.
He's in the movie.
Right.
But you've got
That guy's
these
a real
people.
cut-up.
I'm not sure that Orson was a sociopath. He was just a miserable person. But
I think he was married 4 times,
yeah.
and the last time, I can't remember that wife. She wasn't a famous actress, but they were married for way over 20 years.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, he moved out and lived with his mistress.
Yeah.
He never
Hollywood.
He never
Yeah.
divorced wife number 4, but
Right.
he openly
Yeah.
lived with his mistress for
And
years.
he died, still being with her.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Wow.
But one of the other movies.
Gee, is that the only weirdness that's ever come out of Hollywood?
What do you think?
I don't think so.
One of the
No,
movies.
Hollywood is not an attractive place in
Yeah.
for many reasons.
Yeah, I'm kind of convinced that if somebody can fold themselves into a character and become this character, that there are problems with their character as their person. I've sort of laid, you look at all these Hollywood people who are making pronouncements about real life and us real life people who, just, the ordinary man in the street, woman in the street, and, they're just out to lunch, a lot of what they say. But their performances are amazing, And Orson Welles, I don't think Orson Welles was, this was back in the day when people were patriotic. Hollywood was actually patriotic.
Yep.
Right? And there's a movie which is a very, very telling movie called The Third Man.
Oh, yeah.
And The Third Man, he didn't direct it, but Carol Reed directed it. But Orson Welles played Harry Lime, who was a very famous bad guy in movies, who was an opportunist after the war, or I guess during the war maybe. Joseph Cotton is in that. And
Again.
yes, again. And they worked together a lot and were friends. But Harry Lime, his evil was that he bought medicines, or he stole medicines from the Red Cross and then adulterated them so they wouldn't work and took the money.
Oh.
And and I mean, he was an opportunist of the worst kind.
That goes way-
Substituted medicine so that the children were crippled, children died, but he didn't care. He made a pile of money. And that is you got to see that movie too. It's a black and white.
What's the name again?
The Third Man.
The Third Man.
Yes, and it's got that theme, and everybody knows the theme. If they've never seen it, it's played by a zither, and it goes da 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 da. See, everybody knows it, and now everybody's going to be singing that all day because it's an earworm.
Right.
Okay, but yeah, that was a very famous movie,
Wow.
and very moral.
And how long ago again?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. In the 40s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he was still thin, so it must have been.
He,
He
Yeah.
hadn't eaten too much yet.
We kind of plot the movies according
Yeah.
to how much he weighed. And
This is pre 300, post 300.
yeah, really.
But he was just a tremendous actor.
Yes.
He's one of the most brilliant directors in the history of the cinema.
Absolutely.
And a great radio guy too.
Yeah.
And a complete cad. He kept getting divorced because he couldn't be faithful to his wives
Right.
for more than a few minutes, apparently.
Right.
That's just too easy. I'm not going to go down that road.
But he made he liked Shakespeare.
Right?
He made a couple of good Shakespeare movies,
Yes.
including Macbeth.
Yes.
And you'll never guess who was in Macbeth. Roddy McDowall.
Really?
Yes.
In Macbeth?
Yes.
Wow.
But he was a famous child actor.
Yeah.
And a young actor. I mean, he played. He started out
Right.
in Hollywood very
Yeah,
young.
McDowell wasn't the star in
Yeah,
that, but,
but
he was in
there.
it.
Yeah.
But he's had a long career too.
By the way, Chris, who's watching along on Facebook Live right now, you're reaffirming my faith in the rest of humanity outside of this room, because he said some of these names are going right over my head. I can relate.
Yeah, we're fond of useless knowledge.
Joseph Cotton is very famous.
Yes, and was really.
yeah.
I mean, but he's an important actor. And in The Third Man, he plays the good guy.
Huh.
Who is friends with Harry Lime and then discovers this evil that Harry Lime has been doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Shame.
And then-
Shame on you, Harry.
And then Orson Welles was also in Othello.
Wow.
And
Another big.
yeah,
1951.
1951.
51.
And he directed Othello. He
Yep.
produced it.
Yep.
And he wrote the screenplay.
Yep.
And did he act in that too?
I believe he did.
Now, did they break away from all the Shakespearean dialogue?
I don't think so.
Probably not. He probably pieced it together. He was a classic Shakespearean actor. And remember in those days, and I have this longing for the good old days where people
Okay.
actually read and watched Shakespeare. They
Right.
loved, the ordinary man really was a fan of Shakespeare. In fact, if you go to Mark Twain, you go to Huckleberry Finn, there's this wonderful sequence in Huckleberry Finn in which there's a faux Shakespearean play that Mark Twain wrote, and the jokes are such in-jokes, only if you know Shakespeare would you get the jokes in this play.
But back in that day, that would play well because everybody was familiar.
People were in the aisles, hysterical from this particular
Now show it at
scene.
the local high school this week, and
I tried to explain it when I was teaching. I was teaching Huck Finn and when I was teaching junior high the juniors in high school.
Right.
And I tried, but they just couldn't get the jokes because they didn't know Shakespeare.
Right.
And we think of Shakespeare as being very highfalutin. But in Shakespeare's day,
That was
Oh,
street
He was
stories.
R-rated. There's plays that you can't read in high school because there's too much hanky-panky even Romeo and Juliet, it's a little edgy. But one of the reasons we studied Julius Caesar in the junior year of high school is because it was one of the few plays that Shakespeare wrote that you could actually present to young people without having to edit out the R-rated parts. Aha.
Scary.
Yeah, but people used to go to the old Globe and drink beer and get drunk, throw stuff at the
Yeah.
stage, and hoot and holler, and just really enjoy themselves.
He was the dude of his day. He was like just the most popular. Has he written a new play? Oh, we must go see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you think of Orson Welles, I don't really, again, it's because of the things that I saw as a kid in the 60s, I never really thought of him much as a Shakespearean actor as much as I did kind of a dark, unhappy person, because that seemed to be a
There's
With
a
a
lot
good
of-
appetite.
But there's a lot of dark and unhappiness in Shakespeare. If you think of Othello,
Yeah.
Othello, that story is, here he is, he's married to his love of his life, Desdemona, and his best friend, quote unquote, Iago, starts whispering in his ear that she's unfaithful to you, she's unfaithful to you. And it's
Wasn't true.
such a story. It wasn't true, but Othello, spoiler, okay, but he ends up,
The butler did it.
yeah, he ends up killing his wife because his best friend,
Poisoned the well.
Poisoned him. And if you use the term Iago, for people who know Shakespeare, it is a betrayal of, one closest to you.
What an Iago, huh?
Yeah, one in Iago. It's a real, and then, oh my gosh, Macbeth, that's a major tragedy. And you have Lady Macbeth, who instigated him to do all kinds of stuff, kill the little princess so he could become king. It's, Orson Welles is very suited to a lot of Shakespeare. I don't think he ever played in any comedies, or maybe he did. I'm not sure.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
But he did get a special Oscar in 1970. He got an honorary, like a lifetime achievement kind of a
Right.
thing, which I'm sure he appreciated.
Yeah.
But he also got a raspberry. Oh, I thought you were going to do it.
No, I'm out of practice.
Oh, yeah.
But the raspberry is an annual award, and it's for bad performances. And he was in a movie called Butterfly with Stacy Keach,
Butterfly.
Right.
and one of my favorite actresses of all time, Pia Zadora.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't make very many movies, but she was in Butterfly, and also with Orson Welles, and he got the raspberry for that one.
Well, you can't win them all.
Right.
So, Andy, if you're going to pick one Orson Welles movie that is by far better than the rest, what are you going to
Citizen Kane. There's
You
no,
know,
I mean,
Eyes Wide Shut,
yeah,
Half
you
Asleep,
can't
Citizen Kane.
go anyplace else.
Yeah. But, seeing the other ones, Touch of Evil is really worth seeing.
Huh.
Charlton Heston.
Oh, man, it's really good.
So, and I would assume that all of these are probably just sitting on the shelf waiting to be seen at Netflix or
Yes, you can find them.
Amazon Prime, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So while you're sitting at home wishing you could go to the Sawmill Theaters,
Right.
hey,
Yes,
go online
planning
and check
to
it out.
go.
It's been, I think it's probably been 50 years since I last saw Citizen Kane. But I
Oh, that's too
still
bad.
remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a long time ago.
Well, and
You should go to the classic movies Saturdays when they open
when they
up again.
reopen,
they are going to reopen, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah, because
said.
we did see Citizen Kane.
Citizen
Yeah.
Kane would be a great one to see on the big
It
screen.
is.
Yeah.
It-
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Because remember, the black and white movies of their day were meant to be shown on the big screen, and you see a whole lot more detail.
Mhm.
And Orson Welles said he liked black and white better than color because you could focus on the actors' expressions rather than on the distraction of different colors. And there was a time back in, I can't remember what decade, but it was Ted Turner.
Oh,
Ted
yeah.
Turner was going to colorize.
And he did.
Yes, and he colorized a lot of black and white movies, and to me, it's an
They eventually became CNN.
It's an abomination. Yes, and Orson Welles said, "Get Ted Turner and his Crayolas away from Citizen Kane."
Good for him.
You did,
Well.
yes, and I agree.
Hey, you know, when I think back to classic movies, going back to the Classic Movie Saturday thing that we hope to have up and running again here soon at the Sawmill Theaters, one of the classic movies that, because of my kids and my grandkids and my own childhood, I think I have literally seen hundreds of times.
Tangled?
No, yeah, Fritz the Cat? No, no, it was The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
But I would love to see that on the big
yes.
screen again. I know as a
Oh.
kid, it always freaked me out. The flying monkeys just freaked me right out.
That's
but-
one of the top 10.
Yeah, but on the big screen, I would
Yeah.
I'd pay to go watch that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I'm pretty sure I know every line from the movie.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Now, a couple of times in the last 4 or 5 years at the Sawmill, I've been able to see Casablanca on the big screen.
Oh, yeah,
And-
another top 10.
And it's utterly different
Yes,
from seeing it on TV.
yes.
You know, everybody's always heard about how beautiful Marlene Dietrich is.
Ingrid Bergman.
Or I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ingrid Bergman, and you know, just how stunning she is.
Yes.
But you know, when her face is only 2 inches tall,
Yeah,
you
you
really
don't get
can't
it.
tell. But when her face
Man.
is 10 feet tall,
Oh.
holy smokes, you can see every little twitch and jiggle that she does with her face,
Oh,
and it's amazing. That
Not to
one-
mention the rest of her.
yeah, well, but you know that she was such a good, we say about some of these people who are stars and actresses, but stars, the camera loves them. You know, when you put somebody like Ingrid Bergman in front of the camera, the camera just, you can't look away, right? And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's one scene where Rick and forget her name.
Oh, Ilsa?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Ilsa.
yeah.
Are they're sitting on a couch. They're upstairs in the bar, Rick's place in Casablanca, oddly enough, and they're trying to decide what they should do because they are just head over heels in love with each other
But she's married.
to another guy.
And she's married
Bum, bum,
to,
bum.
and she's married to a hero, a guy who is noble beyond.
Yes,
I mean, he is saving people. He is
Sir
putting his,
Lancelot.
putting his life at risk to work for the underground against the Nazis. And of course Casablanca is occupied by the Nazis, and so you have this, you know, this tension of all these Nazis coming into the bar. There's that great scene where, remember, they sing
the
the Marseillaise, and you know, la, 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 la.
Right?
And everybody stands up, and the Nazis are like, "Arr," yeah.
So anyway, Rick and
Yeah, right.
Rick and Ilsa are talking things over, trying to decide what to do, and she is incredible. You can
Yes.
look at her 10-foot
Oh.
tall face,
Yes.
and you can just see her heart inside her
Yes,
breaking to
yes.
bits
Wow.
Oh.
because it is so awful,
Yeah.
awful what they have to do personally
Yes.
in order to, you know, defeat the.
Sign of a really good actor or
Oh.
actress
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to pull
Well,
that
and
off.
film acting is so different because you know, if you're stage acting, you have to project, you
You
have
have to wave your arms.
You have to be much more exuberant and much more open. But film acting is so subtle. You know, you have the focus on the face and just tiny little expressions. And Orson Welles was great. He was great at both. I mean, he did Shakespeare on the stage,
Right?
but when you see him do something like Falstaff, and I go back to that. I don't even know if I could find it right now, but that, you know, just his poignancy of being this character.
And they named the beer after the character.
Yeah, they did.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh yeah.
wasn't-
It's a Shakespearean beer.
It wasn't like Hank Falstaff brewing. It's like,
Yeah,
they did that on purpose.
Actual Shakespearean beer.
Yeah,
Shakespearean beer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
that's true.
I don't doubt it. I mean,
So, could we talk about some stuff to watch to tide people over?
we got about a little less than 10 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Anything by Guy Ritchie except
Yes.
movies that he spent more than $20 million on.
Yeah.
Well, that narrows it down.
They kind of tank. Yeah, I know. But I've been watching documentaries
Okay.
on Netflix, and I watched last night there's a great documentary on Netflix called Restless Creature. And it's about New York City ballet dancer, prima ballerina, Wendy Whalen, who's extraordinary. And I'm this ballet groupie anyway. I used to go up to Lincoln Center. I mean, I was in tears watching this because I sat in this wonderful theater. But Wendy Whalen was a ballerina for 30 years.
Wow,
And-
that's a long time for a
Yes, and
ballerina.
she's 46 years old. She underwent, she had a hip injury and underwent a very cutting edge.
I get it, cutting edge.
Yeah, but I mean, she's amazing. Even if you're not a ballet fan, you could become one just by watching this because her abandonment and her excellence. Some people are dancing and some people are just doing something else. And she's, excuse me, she is one of the most beautiful dancers I've ever seen anywhere. And I mean, I'm a ballet groupie. I've seen a lot of dancers in person and also on the screen. And she will make you want to feel good in your body because of the way she moves. She's just gorgeous. So it's called Restless Creature. And please watch it. Please watch it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about you, Andy? I mean, any suggestions for people if they're looking for something interesting to
I don't
watch?
like ballet.
Huh.
Remember the movie Black Swan with Natalie Portman?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
that could have made me hate ballet. I hated that. Yeah.
Poor Natalie Portman, who I dearly love, ballet was mean to her.
Right?
Well, and also they had her dancing, and she was serviceable. But I'm telling you, you watch Black Swan and then you watch Restless Creature. You compare. I mean, we're talking about real dancing and Hollywood.
And pretend dancing.
Well, I mean, she was trained and everything, Natalie, but she's mediocre. It's not something. If you watch that, you will hate ballet. If you watch Restless Creature, you will love it. Yeah.
I was mad about the quality of the dancing.
It's terrible.
I was mad because Natalie Portman was hurt.
Oh,
It was
it's so
a
sad.
crappy movie. Sorry.
Well,
she
yeah.
won an Oscar, but it was a crappy movie.
Did she get an Oscar for that?
Yes.
I don't know.
And they had the obligatory
Not a
lesbian
big, not a big
scene.
ballet
Sorry.
fan. Anytime there's men in tights,
You got to see this. Seriously.
Really?
You'll see stuff.
He's not going to see it.
You know what it's like is,
Hold your breath waiting.
well, okay, when we meet again next week, perhaps you will.
No,
watch
but it is. One of the things I do have to say though is that I'm far more of a documentary junkie when it comes to sitting down. I don't watch a lot of movies. I know this is a big shocker for you,
Or read books.
but I do love documentaries.
And you might like this because it really shows the overcoming obstacles. I mean, this is a woman who started out when she was 3 dancing. She was on point and dancing almost professionally when she was 12.
Wow.
And she had scoliosis. She had to wear a brace for 5 years when she was a kid. She danced through all of this.
Wow.
And then went to
That's
New York.
Dancing
and-
Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, her.
Where's ABBA when you need him?
Yeah, but I mean, her ability to lose herself in the movement.
Right.
Please watch it. Please, everybody watch it. Restless Creature. Netflix.
Well, sadly, we're about out of time, but we appreciate you joining us on Facebook Live today, and hopefully next week we'll have.
I saw Get the Gringo where Mel Gibson
Oh,
shot a
yeah.
whole bunch of people.
Oh, now see that too.
Get the
Yeah.
Gringo. That.
Oh.
I saw that.
Oh my God, I love that movie. I've seen it about 8 times. Love it.
Some of the movies that have an interesting blend of great action, suspense, and comedy all mixed into one.
Yeah.
I like that. To me, life has got too much drama in it already
Yeah.
for me to spend too much time watching other drama. But something a little lighthearted with some, comedy mixed in with, a little bit of action.
Yeah.
And basically, the Raiders of the Lost Ark type stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think you'd like Guy Ritchie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah, that's good.
Revolver,
Revolver.
Rock and Rolla,
Yeah.
The Gentleman, just out last year,
And of course, Snatch.
and Snatch. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've got my playlist figured out here. And actually, over the weekend, I think because it's so cold outside, I think I'll probably stay inside and watch a few movies, so at least I got.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, if you do have Netflix,
We have everything.
well, see, there you are. So you and Diane need to make a date and watch Restless Creature because it's very romantic. It's super romantic.
Do you think we have to watch the movie to be in the
I
moment?
didn't say you had to, but.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're out of time, but we do appreciate you watching along with us. Don't forget, Craig will hopefully be with us again next Friday morning. A little under the weather today. We hope he gets to feeling better. And thanks again to Andy and Tina for being with us, our hometown movie guys, right here on camera.
You should watch 5 different versions of Macbeth over the weekend.
Oh, there you go.
What did I do to make you mad?
That'll straighten you up.
Yeah, that'll straighten you out.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.